This is the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk on every team in the NHL.
Calgary Flames fans, it's time for Flames Unfiltered. Entertaining and controversial hockey talk with your host, Brad Baroud. The Tkachuk-Kassian feud has exploded into a level I did not think was possible. Will there be retribution? Good evening, welcome to the show. It's Flames Unfiltered, episode number 32. I am the host of the show, Brad Baroud. January 15th, 2020. It is a Wednesday night. It's so damn cold. It's almost unbearable. I can't even believe how cold it is outside. We've been getting snow, and I can't even shovel because it's unbearably cold. Tomorrow, my project is, to work on some Flame stuff, work on the website, and shovel my driveway. The Habs spoil the Flames win party. You know, I guess the streak can't go on forever, and I'm happy with that bounce back and getting 5 in a row. That was pretty damn good. This will be a really interesting weekend. I'm excited for it. Calgary and Toronto on Thursday, Ottawa on Saturday afternoon. Yes, an afternoon game in the middle of nowhere in Ottawa, even though I had a good time when I was there. And then the team heads on vacation. So, Flames fans, what are the odds the Flames are focused on this game? How many players are taking the charter back to Calgary? How many are just headed on vacation? It scares the hell out of me. It's an afternoon game, which scare me to start with. And then it's the final game before a 9-day CBA-mandated break and All-Star break. It's not a good recipe for success. Let's hope Ottawa is hitting the snooze button as much as Calgary is hitting the snooze button. Well, now what do we do with the goalies? Now we have 2 good goalies in Calgary. That's a hell of a good problem to have. Who plays what night? I'm coaching this team. I think I put Rittich in on Thursday against Toronto. And I put Talbot in Saturday against Ottawa. That's what I would do. What do I know? I'm so damn cold right now after being outside tonight. It's nice in a nice warm studio. On today's show, we're going to recap that Montreal loss. We're going to talk about the aftermath of the Tkachuk-Kassian debacle. Got a great interview with Shane Ryan of the Frozen Bisquit podcast. He covers the Ottawa Senators for the Hockey Podcast Network. Talk some Flames news, talk Talbot, Rittich, Mangipanne. Go around the league, talk Panarin, Backstrom, Marchand, Vegas Golden Knights. Fan question, and then we'll wrap up the show with a preview of that Toronto game Thursday night and that Ottawa game on Saturday night. The Hockey Podcast Network, which we are so proud to be part of. It's been great this year. Season 1 of the Hockey Podcast Network. Hockey podcast for all 31 NHL teams twice a week. And there's also another great podcast you need to check out. It's called Tales with TR, a hockey podcast. Features NHL player Terry Ryan, former first-round pick. You've heard him on Spittin' Chicklets. He's not just full of hockey knowledge because he played the game. He's full of entertaining and hilarious things. Check out Tales with TR, a hockey podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network.
Every team, everywhere. The Hockey Podcast Network.
All right, Flames fans, Monday night, Calgary took a little trip into Montreal, one of my favorite cities that I've ever visited for a hockey game. Montreal is fun, beautiful, and while that Bell Center's a place to go watch hockey. Oof, nice place. Well, 2-0 defeat. I wasn't all that pissed after this game. Calgary had a real slow start. Seemed really sluggish out of the gate. Which wasn't that big of a surprise coming off a huge emotional, crazy, wild battle of Alberta. I mean, Was anybody really shocked at that? I thought they seemed a lot better in the second and the third. And it was just one of those games where bounces just were not going the Flames' way. They just weren't. You just get those nights as a team, and every team gets them, where it's just like, that probably would have went in on a normal night. That probably would have not been a penalty on a normal night. I thought Rittich was very, very good. Honestly, after the first, it should have been 4 or 5-0. Shot 17-7 in the first. The end of the game, they were 37-31 in favor of Montreal. We can't give up 37 shots and win. It just doesn't work. Even when your goalies are good. Not a lot of recaps on scoring. Jordan Wheel got his 5th of the year on a crazy wraparound fail, and then he spun around with a wild shot, beat Rittich 5-hole at the 13:30 mark of the first, none in the second. Ryan Poehling gets his 1st of the year at the 9:45 mark of the third. That sealed the deal. 2-0 Montreal. Calgary with some chances late, but nothing, I guess, super sustained or crazy. 2-0 defeat. Game 1 of the road trip. I don't know. Now that puts a little bit of heat on Calgary to bounce back, and we got to get at least 2 points out of this Ottawa-Toronto. I think we at least need to get 2. 4 would be wonderful. Heading into the final or into the break, I think it's so important to go in on a positive, and even more so for the Flames to come out of this break hot, because last year when they came out of the break, it was scary, scary, scary bad.
Inside Edge Hockey News, bringing you inside the game.
All right, Flames fans, let's talk about the aftermath of the Tkachuk Kassian thing. And I don't know. I honestly thought that, I don't know. I'm almost getting tired of talking about it, but it's kind of, I don't know. It's got me thinking about the 29th. Oh, it's got me thinking. Tkachuk Kassian, this story has exploded. I can't believe the press, the opinions, the Twitter craziness that this incident has gotten. I mean, I thought it was a fairly big incident on Saturday night when it happened, but I never in my wildest dreams would have thought it would have exploded to the point that it's exploded. It's crazy. You know what really surprises me the most of this whole thing is how many people and how many analysts and how many media members and other people in the hockey world are siding with Kassian on this. Evidently, they've forgotten his past. Tkachuk is getting crucified. Crucified. I don't understand it. Why does Marchand not get crucified when he does something wrong? It seems like when he's a nut job out there, and the thing that differentiates Tkachuk from Marchand is I won't even compare him, because I'll compare him if they aggravate, but Marchand's dirty. Tkachuk's not dirty. Now, his second hit might have been borderline. Yes, was it a charge? Probably. I would have been good with a penalty, but it sure as hell wasn't a suspension. It sure as hell didn't even come close to that. Why doesn't the media and other former players and people in the hockey world crucify Marchand? When he does something, they're just like, well, that's just the way he plays. You know, he's an aggravator. That's the way Marchand is. Well, Tkachuk's the same. Only he's not as dirty and doesn't injure players. So Kassian gets a 2-game suspension. Comes back, you guessed it, for the game on the 29th against Calgary. Is this good or bad? It's good, I think. I was so pumped when I found out he got just 2 games. Quite honestly, I'll be honest with you. I'm an old school guy. Do I like the Tkachuk turtled? No, but I think it was the right thing to do because we won the game because of it. Do I like Tkachuk's hits? I don't have a problem with the hits. I really don't. I think he might have or probably should have stood up for himself. But I understand why he didn't, and I'm glad he didn't. But you know what? And I don't think this is going to happen, but I'd like to see it happen. Right at the start of the game, I wish Tkachuk would drop him with Kassian and get it over with. What will the result be on the 29th? Probably nothing, hockey fans. Probably nothing. We're probably going to get hyped up to a point that no matter what, we're not going to be satisfied. Because I will guarantee that the National Hockey League will be watching this and will be sending out warnings to general managers, coaches, and players prior to the game that anything happens, the fines, the suspensions will be at top scale. Still doesn't mean that I'm not going to be extremely excited to watch this. I don't know what'll happen. I'd like to see Tkachuk fight Kassian immediately and then get back to driving him crazy. And I would not let up on him at all. I'd be at him every time. And I'd go back to what Calgary did 2 years ago when the Battle of Alberta went nutso and Kassian jumped Tkachuk that time. Is I'd go back to tormenting McDavid and Draisaitl. And you know who I'd add to that list? Nugent Hopkins. I think he'd be easy to take off his game. Now this has turned into a soundbite circus, I'd call it. Lucic commented today that, and Ronaldo, that everybody in this team is a team and they live and die together and they will go to bat for each other and they'll be there for Tkachuk no matter what. And Lucic pretty much called out Kassian. In all essence, called out Kassian. Day before, Kassian pretty much called out that he said, well, now I learned what legal checks are and illegal checks are, and everybody better keep their head up. I'm coming hunting. So he pretty much called it, which I'm guaranteeing the league is listening to that and going, yeah, well, we'll see about that. Am I worried about the game and worried about our player or one of our players getting injured? Maybe a little bit. Quite honestly, I worry more when we play Washington with Tom Wilson. I really do. I think the league's going to strap down on this so hard that we don't need to worry. Now, more things off the ice that with this whole circus show. Draisaitl claims now that if he has to play with Tkachuk in the All-Star game, he's leaving the ice. That's a pretty mature comment, huh? Yeah, pretty mature comment. You know, one thing that's cool about hockey is that on the ice, you're an opponent, and it's balls to the wall, and everything goes. But once the horn sounds, we shake hands, and we can be buds. That's one of the things really cool about hockey that you don't see in a lot of other sports. So for Draisaitl to say that, yeah, childish. Real childish. Now, is there a positive to this story? Yes, there is. And that's that Flames fans set up a GoFundMe account to buy a billboard in Edmonton. A radio station says that they'll buy the damn billboard and all the money will go to the ALS Foundation, which desperately needs help. And it hits close to home in Calgary, more so than ever right now. And the money being raised is crazy good. Crazy good. Billboards are going to go up in Edmonton if they haven't already went up. Edmonton reciprocated. They're raising money. It's turned into a great competition between cities for charity. The charities are the winner. So I guess there is a positive to this story and something we can take away and be happy about.
NHL news, opinions, and controversy.
It's time to talk Saturday afternoon matinee against the Ottawa Senators. Great interview with my buddy Shane Ryan from a Frozen Bisquit podcast. Talk a little bit about the CBA mandated break. Talk about the Tkachuk brothers and that meeting, how they differentiate as players, and talk about the future of the Ottawa Senators. And we also talk and give our predictions for Saturday afternoon's matchup. Joining the show now is our good friend from Frozen Bisquit podcast in Ottawa, Shane Ryan. Good to have you, Shane.
Yeah, pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
Well, Saturday, Calgary comes into Ottawa for the second meeting of the year between the two teams. I don't know how you think Saturday's game is going to go, but with both teams leaving on a 9-day break, how do you think the teams will play on Saturday?
I mean, it's Battle of Tkachuk Part 4, and I think that if they both play up to the way they've been playing, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I don't care if Ottawa wins or loses at this point. Just all in. Losing for Lafreniere. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
But as long as it's interesting, I mean, I hope Hogberg gets his 5th straight start. I don't even know if he's starting against Vegas, but I think he is. So honestly, as long as it's interesting, I don't care.
It's going to be interesting with a break ahead. I know some players won't be taking the charter back to Calgary and will be heading right out on vacation. And I wonder how, players react to that and if it's harder to get up or if your mind is elsewhere. And it'll be interesting because points are critical right now for Calgary. So this team can't afford to have a letdown against Ottawa. And that's no disrespect to Ottawa because, quite honestly, if you look at Calgary's schedule thus far this year, we tend to lose to teams that we should beat based on the standings and beat the teams we shouldn't beat. And if Calgary is going to be successful and make the playoffs this year, we're going to have to change that and start getting the 2 points when we should have them in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always hard no matter what time of year it is beating the teams that you should be beating. The one thing I think Calgary will have, a good – I'm not sure if Rittich's going to play. I know Talbot, from what I've seen, has been, decent the last couple of games he's played. But I think it's just going to come down to who's in net, really. And the reason I say that is because, the teams are going to feed off who's ever in net. And the team doesn't feed off well when Anderson's in net for Ottawa. So I feel like Rittich seem to play differently in front of Rittich than they do with Talbot, at least from the games I've seen with both goalies in. I think they have more confidence in Rittich to make the big saves than they do in Talbot. I might be wrong on that. You get to see him more often than I do.
I think they probably I would agree with the part that they rely on, or they would, I guess they trust, maybe, I don't know if trust is the right word, but they probably leave him hung out to dry more than they leave Talbot hung out to dry. But as of late, I mean, Talbot was the 3rd star of the week this week, and he's just been lights out lately. So I'm not sure who they're going to start. They haven't announced that or released that. I would guess that Talbot gets 1 start before the break and Rittich gets 1. I'm not sure who goes tomorrow night against Toronto, but if Rittich goes tomorrow against Toronto, and then I would say Talbot would be in and vice versa. That's one thing in Calgary right now that I'm not worried about is our goaltending, believe it or not. And I never thought I'd be saying that at the beginning of the year because that was probably Calgary's biggest question mark heading into the season.
Oh, yeah, that was 100%. I was definitely expecting a trade for, I wasn't sure how Calgary's goaltending would have turned out this year. I think like a lot of Calgary fans, that was the case. I definitely thought there would have been a trade honestly now around this time or kind of before Christmas for a goalie if either Talbot or Rittich wasn't performing up to standards.
Yeah, I mean, goaltending is so critical to the success of any team, but especially if you're hoping to go on a playoff run and not just a first-round exit, you need to have good goaltending. So heading into this 9-day break, how do you feel about the CBA-mandated week-long break?
See, I like it. I think it's good just because we've seen players, dip heading into, the stretch run. Like they're noticeably exhausted. Personally, what I would do would be doing it after the All-Star break. Have all teams literally like the last game is the Thursday. Teams are off from Friday. They get the weekend, and then they're off from Monday to Saturday, and games start up the following Sunday. Because, that way you get a full week off plus the All-Star break. it would probably help players actually want to go to the All-Star game, because I think for some teams it's literally the All-Star game is in the middle of their like week-long break. For Ottawa, it's right before. I would think if they were to be like all teams are off Friday before the All-Star weekend, and then the week after, I think it would be a better draw for players, because then they could be like, okay, I got a day off, I'll go do the All-Star thing, and then I can take a full week off, no problem.
Yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings on the whole thing. I think if I had to vote, I would get rid of the whole week-long break to start with and get the season over a week earlier. And I think most Calgary fans would agree with us, with me, because if you look at previous years when we've had the CBA mandated break, we are disastrous coming back, and teams are just struggle getting back up to speed and back in the groove again. But it is what it is. The players wanted that in the last CBA, and I guess we'll live with it and pray our teams come back, firing on all cylinders.
I mean, I think that's one thing that people forget is that it's the players who asked for it, not the owners. And
the owners don't want it. The owners want to get the season done, and they want to keep the weeks rolling when the money rolling in. So,
but I mean, realistically, is losing a week like this isn't the Olympics that they're losing 3 to 4 weeks of profit in the middle of the hockey season.
No, I mean they're
still
still
losing a week. They're gaining that week back, right? So you're not actually losing much.
No, you're not losing any games. But you know what? It's funny. I'll text you on Thursday of next week when you're not watching any hockey and see how your week's going, because I think it's going to be a long, boring week for me.
You know what? I'm pretty sure next week, there's a couple of other sports going on that I can watch.
Sure. We can. Maybe we should spend some time with our families. It's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. Kind of catch up with people, all that fun stuff. But I mean, that's the thing is that having a week-long break isn't the end of the world. But in the middle of end of January, early February, there's not really much going on.
That's when we need hockey at night, right?
I feel like if they were to honestly, I think if it's a double-edged sword, right? Because players want it, but when's the best opportunity for it? Because players before the playoffs, right?
I'd rather take it right around Christmas, seriously.
But that's the thing, is just trying to find the best balance
and that's
for both fans, ownership, and players. Is Christmas too early? Is February too late? Just like around that 40 to 50 game mark, like 45 to 55 game mark is kind of where they're slotting teams in for that week.
Yeah.
So
now you mentioned that it is the battle of the Tkachuk brothers again, and is it the fourth meeting, I believe?
Yes.
How many meetings are we going to have before we quit saying that this is the battle of the Tkachuk brothers? Is that going to go on for eternity, do you think?
I think so. I think it's one of those things.
And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I just, you know what I mean?
I think it's because they're East and West.
Yeah,
I think
probably.
it's that they only see each other twice a year.
Yeah.
You're going to see the same thing with Quinn Hughes in Vancouver, Jack Hughes in New Jersey.
Yep.
It's going to be the battle of brothers whenever they meet. If, Tkachuk was drafted by, he was in Arizona.
Yeah, it would be a done issue now.
Yeah, it'd be like, okay, the first year, okay, yeah, now it's nothing.
Yeah.
But since they're in, two different conferences and they're both Canadian teams, I think it's always going to be a thing. Their dad played in Winnipeg. It's just the Canadian vibe of Tkachuk.
Mm-hmm.
It'll always be a thing no matter the meeting. And then, in the next 2-3 years, it's going to be most likely, and hopefully at least for Sun's side, superstar brother versus superstar brother, and they're going to be dominating the game against each other.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Matthew's been in the news a ton lately, and everybody's got their opinions and got their thoughts on it. What's the talk in Ottawa? What's your opinion? Have you heard anything from Brady? what's going on in Ottawa, and what do they think of last Saturday night's Battle of Alberta fiasco?
I'm gonna get my personal opinion away on it. I've watched Kassian for the last 7 years. I don't know why he's complaining. I've seen him throw worse hits than what was laid on him. One of them, maybe you can call for a charge.
Sure.
Whichever way you want to call it,
But it wasn't it was an elbow to the face or anything.
No, there was the one that he was coming out around the net. You could have called a charge. I would have been okay with that. I would have been okay with it being called a charge, no penalty. Sure. I think Kassian is just mad that he got dubbed. Because realistically, Tkachuk's not the Tkachuk brothers, Maddie or Brady, aren't some people to back down from a fight. But Tkachuk knew exactly what he was doing when he turtled. And you can say whatever you want about him. You can call him a pussy, whatever. It doesn't change the fact that he got exactly what he wanted out of Kassian, and that was a penalty.
Yep.
If it was a fair fight,
completely took him off his game. I mean, completely.
100%.
So, I mean, and that affects his line mates. That affects the whole team. And Brady played him like a fiddle and ended up with 2 points in first place out of the deal. So, do I feel like? I mean, my personal opinion, do I feel like they were all legal checks? I don't think they were absurd checks or suspension worthy checks. I think probably the second one should have been a charging, but beyond that, we see worse things than that on a nightly basis in the league.
100%. Zaitsev, I can't remember who he leveled the other night against Chicago, but it looked like he picked the guy up and threw him to the ice.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that happen on a nightly basis. I think Kassian just got upset and was frustrated that he got dubbed by Tkachuk, and he got played so finely that, he was just trying to save grace. Do I think it's going to set fireworks up? 100%. But that's exactly what this needs.
Absolutely.
When was the last time the Battle of Alberta was this hyped and this, it reminds me a lot of the early 2000s Battle of Alberta. And I kind of hope that the Battle of Ontario can get back to this in some way, somehow.
A lot of people talk to me, and I that's the reason I'm bringing this up is I know you can relate to it. When your team's not doing well and not relevant, and your biggest rival is not relevant either, it's no fun. So people say to me, well, you want Edmonton to suck, right? And it's like, well, yes, but I also want them relevant so that we have that rivalry, because that's what makes this sport so fun. So I don't know. It's good. I'm excited. I can't wait for that. I just wanted to get your take, your opinion, because it is completely consumed Edmonton and Calgary.
Oh, it's consumed Twitter in general. It's great.
Yeah. But, it's going to be interesting. How do you compare Brady to Matthew?
I don't. You can't compare the two. If you want to look at his family, Matthew's the odd man out. He has a great shot. He's a great skater. He can play physical. And he can get under their team's skin, obviously. We saw it against Edmonton. We've seen it against LA. But you look at Brady, he plays the game so much more like Keith did versus Matty. Matty's such a new age player versus Brady, because Matthew can kill you anywhere on the ice. He can score from almost anywhere. Brady still needs to develop a better shot, but he can hurt you in close a lot more than Matthew can.
Brady's more of a power forward, though, with the strength, size, and skating. He's a little bit better skater in my 100%. Mind than Matthew is. The
skating, he falls down a lot. He needs to work on his balance.
Matthew's not even close to a good skater. Matthew, and I'm not ripping on him. He's not in the NHL because of his skating, though. He's in the NHL because of his hockey sense. He's one of the smartest I don't know what you'd say. It's like he has, there's certain guys that just have that sixth sense on what's going to happen, and Matthews got that.
See, with Matty, like watching him in London and whatnot, his skating is definitely not his strong point, but I will say that his edge work and his balance is his strength.
He's strong on his skates.
100%. And that's what Brady lacks. He's not great on his edges, and he doesn't have that great of balance. He has the speed, he just doesn't have everything else. Sure. And I feel like that's where Matthew lacks. Matthew has the edge work, the balance. He has the footwork. He just doesn't have the great speed and overall cleanliness of skating that you would see from, McDavid or Draisaitl, Monahan, and Gaudreau. Well, Brady just lacks that balance and edge work to make him an elite skater. And he worked on it a little bit this summer, and I'm hoping it continues. It's a matter of him growing. But I think they're two completely different players, and they're going to have to – they can't be compared to each other.
No, I agree with you. They're different players. Diving into some other Ottawa news. Ottawa's having the year that you expected, probably, I would guess. And the rebuild is in full swing. With 11 picks, 2 first, 3 seconds this year. How do you see this team moving forward? Will they make all those selections? Will they trade some of those selections to get some NHL-ready players to speed up the rebuild? How do you see this go, or will they stay the course and build through the draft?
See, I'm very conflicted on this. I would be open, depending on how the balls fall when it comes to the lottery. If I'm drafting in if San Jose is from 7 to 12 on the draft board, I would look at trading it. You could get a relatively nice haul, maybe another future first round, probably another second. I would look at maybe trading 2 of the second rounds that we have this year for future picks, because the problem Ottawa can't run into is diluting the prospect pool. We have so many right now that, we have 3 picks this year in the second round. I think we have 2 picks next year in the second round. It might be 3. And then we have 2 firsts. We have a lot of picks over the next 2 years. There's nothing wrong with maybe trading 1 or 2 of those, especially this year, for maybe one in 2022, 2023. Kind of spread out those picks because you'll really know what you have in guys like Formanton, Norris, those kind of guys by then. Pinto's going to be out of North Dakota, hopefully not next season, but the year after. Gruden will be up. So over the next 2 years, we have a lot of prospects coming out. So unless they're, borderline NHL players, I would think trading them, maybe not for NHL players, because we have a couple that we should keep, especially with the expansion. And I think that's going to decide on what happens with a lot of these picks and what happens with, prospects and whatnot. But
what do you see the Paschal situation playing out with him being a pending UFA? Is this a guy that will re-sign with this organization, or is this a deadline move to pick up more talent?
I talked to Grant on my show about this a little bit, and I'm okay with trading him purely based on the fact that
I think his sale price is as high as it's ever going to be.
100%. Looking at it, next year. And that's the thing, is that unfortunately with Paschal, you have to look at next season and not, the 2-3 years after. It's next season and what signing him could do to the expansion. And everything that Dorian has to do, unfortunately, is based on the expansion. Signing DeMello is key. You sign DeMello to a long-term deal, you protect him. Problem is you also have Zaitsev and Shabbat to protect, as well as and maybe Wolanin, probably not. The benefit for that is that, Tkachuk, Batherson, and Logan Brown are all RFAs next summer. And I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that if you're not under contract for the 21-22 season, you don't have to be protected for the expansion draft because you're not under contract. So you can't be left unprotected and you can't be picked by Seattle. So, you don't sign certain guys but until after the expansion draft. So you're going to have you're also going to have players available. So, maybe you sign them to a 4-year deal and you expose them at the draft. For Seattle, that would be a good pick for Seattle to build around. It's just a matter of getting all the other pieces lined up. I think if they can't get a trade done by the deadline, he's done, though. I think it's that point where you have to trade him.
You have to. You've got to get something for him. You can't let him walk. You've got to get something.
There's only 2 people I think we can let walk, and that's or get to free agency or after the after the deadline, and that's Borowiecki and DeMello.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 that I can see us being comfortable getting past. But I think Boro signs within the next month. He's expecting a kid, so that's really going to play a factor in what's going on. DeMello seems to like it here. He seems to be, really liked with the guys. So he's someone I hope Ottawa kind of puts some money into. He's making $900,000 this year. He's probably not going to ask for a lot more, probably like 1.2 mil, maybe 1.5. But I'd be comfortable going up to 3 mil for a guy like him. He's a 26. He's a glue guy, very much like Mark Mathot was for Carlson.
Where's your thoughts on goaltending? That's obviously not a strong suit right now in Ottawa. Where do you see that? Who in the next 3 years? Where do you see that unfolding?
So this one's an interesting one because we have Hogberg at 25. He'll be 26 next year. He's shown he's gone 3 straight games to overtime, and it wasn't his fault that he lost 3. We've scored, I think, 5 goals in our last 3 games, but he looks like he can be an NHL goalie. We have him and Nielsen are both under contract next year for NHL contracts. So I'd assume both that's your 1-2. We have Joey Decord, the Arizona State prospect, who started the season in Brampton, our East Coast Hockey League affiliate. With Hogberg coming up, he's been called up to Belleville. He's like 7-1-2 or 7-2-1, something like that in the AHL with Belleville. And Gus has been getting better every game. He was the Swedish prospect that we got for Brassard from Pittsburgh a couple of years ago. And then we have Mandalozzi in the queue, and I believe he's still with Cape Breton, as well as Sogard, who I believe is still with Madison Hat. So in the next 5 years, we have a really deep goalie prospect, goalie pipeline. But heading into the 22-23 season, I'd expect either the top 2 in Ottawa would be Marcus Hogberg and Joey Decord.
Okay. It'll be interesting. It's always prospects and goaltenders is really hard to predict and really hard to figure out. I know Calgary's had a lot of teams have had we got all these prospects, and goalie prospects are tricky to see how they all pan out and how it all falls into place. Calgary has played Ottawa 1 time this year. 3-1 win for the Calgary Flames on November 30th.
Hogberg's first start.
Was it really?
Yeah.
It was, huh?
Yeah. It was his first start of the year. And
I
he
honestly
played great.
I know I watched the game, and I have a hard time remembering much of that game for some reason.
He was not the reason we lost that game.
He wasn't, sure. Huh? Well, what are your thoughts on Saturday afternoon? Is it? I can give you my prediction. You might be surprised, but I don't see Calgary being very strong on Saturday afternoon, and I pray I'm wrong.
Historically, Ottawa is not good in afternoon games. They're not historically
Either is Calgary.
Good in matinee games. They're not good. They come out slow, sluggish. maybe since it's Tkachuk versus Tkachuk,
They
might be a little bit of an uplift. My problem is Monahan always seems to lift his game when he plays Ottawa, especially in Ottawa. So, I mean, I can see him having a great – I mean, he's played at the CTC before as the home kid. So, I feel like he's going to elevate his game. It's so hard. I would love to see Hogberg get his win. Like, so hard. But I got – honestly, I'm going to say overtime. It's going to be a 3-2 final. It's going to go to a shootout. Monahan with the game winner.
Oh, I hope you're right, because we need the 2 points. And it's always fun watching Ottawa play. I don't know why I always kind of have a soft spot in my heart. I've made one trip to Ottawa myself personally to watch a game, and it was a lot of fun. And I don't know. I hope Ottawa can pull through after the tough times they had last year and the rebuild, and hopefully management can get things figured out, and things are moving in the right direction in Ottawa.
Yeah, they are. I'm super excited to get this going, get things on the roll. It's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure. I'm hopefully going to the game on Saturday. Oh, good. That'll be a lot of fun. Anytime you get to go check out your team, it's a lot of fun. And enjoy your weekend. And I hope Calgary gets 2 points, but I guess if Ottawa gets one along the way, I'm good with that too. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with us losing. Just keep getting points. Just 1 point, 1 point. Yeah, you got your draft picks to get here. You guys are doing this the right way. You're building this through prospects, and you guys got a lot of good prospects. Thanks for joining me, Shane. I really, truly appreciate it, and have a great weekend. You too. Thank you for having me.
Every team, everywhere. The Hockey Podcast Network.
Hey, Flames fans. Time for a little bit of Flames news. This week, good week for the Flames. Cam Talbot named third star of the week in the National Hockey League. He went 3-0-0 this week, 1.67 goals against average, .953 save percentage. He helped the Flames move up into first place with a big win in the Battle of Alberta. He was good. Started the week with a 31 save victory in Chicago, 2-1. The big one in the Battle of Alberta, I thought he played really, really well. This guy's just gradually gotten better all year, and well-deserved this week, number 3 star of the week in the National Hockey League. Now our other goaltender, 1A, 1B, right? David Rittich, named to the All-Star team today. He's going to be replacing Darcy Kemper of Arizona. It's a nice honor for David Rittich. Started off the year really, really well. He's done really a good job. Dream come true in Calgary. Both our goalies winning awards. That's awesome, isn't it? Andrew Mangipanne played his 100th game in the National Hockey League Monday night in Montreal. Good to see that from the young player. Big things for him in the future for this team. I've kind of criticized him. I've been critical of him and wondering if he can live up to the top 6. So far, so good, though. I like what I see of Andrew Mangipanne. Getting better every single week. Confidence is growing. He plays his 100th game Monday in Montreal. Congratulations to Andrew Mangipanne. CoolHockey.com is your number one source for authentic and customized NHL jerseys. Use promo code THPN and receive 25% off your order. CoolHockey.com.
CoolHockey.com. Jerseys online since '99.
It's time to take a trip around the National Hockey League and talk about all kinds of different news and happenings throughout the league. Artemi Panarin and JT Miller are the top 2 players acquired by new teams last summer in points. Did anybody expect JT Miller of the Vancouver Canucks to be this successful of a signing for them? He's been really, really good, really impressive. Washington Capitals re-signed star forward Nicholas Backstrom to a 5-year, $46 million deal and $9.2 million per year. One of the crazy things about this is Backstrom didn't even use an agent. He did it on his own. He didn't want to leave Washington, and Washington didn't want to lose him. They come together on a real good deal. Monday was a night 98% of all hockey fans sat at their in front of their TV and laughed their ass off. As Brad Marchand fumbled the shootout, he skates around, comes to pick out the puck at center ice for the shootout to come in on the goalie. He flubs it, moves the puck about a foot, skates on by it. Officials come together. He made a play, moved the puck forward. It's no goal. Bruins lose. Flyers win. Wow, did I love it. Vegas Golden Knights shocked the hockey world on Wednesday morning. They fired their coach Gerard Gallant, and hired Peter DeBoer. I tell you, I don't get this one. Last week, the Vegas Golden Knights were in first place in the Pacific. They're in fifth now, but guess what? The whole standings flipped in 1 week. They're 3 points out of first place, and they fired their coach. Wow, did you ever think the pressure would be that intense in Vegas? Blew my mind. Fan question of the week. And this is an interesting one, and one that I was like, I don't know, it got me thinking, because my original response, I had to retract it because my original response doesn't make sense, and I'll explain that to you now. Question was, which one of our key UFA defensemen should the Flames focus on re-signing? Should it be Hamonic or Brodie? My first response was, I think we need to re-sign both these guys. I think we do. But you know what? When you start looking at our depth chart, and you see that Valimaki will be back from injury. We got Shillington. We got Anderson locked up now. We got Gio. We got Hanifin. Can we afford to have both of them? I don't know. I think Hamonic would probably be the cheapest and the best way to go. With Shillington being such a good skater, Anderson being such a good skater, we kind of need that stay-at-home guy, a gritty guy. And I'll tell you what, I've always been a big Hamonic fan. That guy will go to bat for his teammates. He'll do absolutely anything to win a hockey game. And those are guys you need in the locker room, on the bench, and on the ice. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. It's funny when you look at our defensive core and you look at our young prospects and you go, wow, we really got things going good. One thing I wouldn't take out of the question, though, Flames fans, is I'd try to sign Stone for another year. Having him as a seventh guy really makes me feel comfortable. It really makes me feel comfortable having him as that seventh guy waiting in the wings if someone gets hurt. Because it's going to happen. You can't play an 82-game season into the playoffs without some injuries, especially on the back end. I remember Brian Burke one time was talking about when he went on a run. I can't remember if it was with Vancouver or Toronto. I'm guessing it was Vancouver. He goes, he didn't know how many defense he was going to need to sustain the playoffs and to make it through it. You need 8 guys. You need a solid 8 guys for sure. Game preview. Thursday night, Calgary heads into Toronto. Another Canadian matchup is, I don't know, the schedule maker must have been out of his mind giving us 4 Canadian games in a row. I hate it. Spread them out. I love it when we play Canadian teams. Calgary sits 25-18-5, 55 points. Third in the Pacific. Last game was a loss Monday night to 2-0 to Montreal that we talked about. Toronto sits 25-16-6, 56 points, just one more than Calgary. They also sit third in the Atlantic Division. Their last game, 7-4 win over New Jersey in Toronto on Tuesday night. One previous meeting this year, 4-2, Calgary Flames win in Calgary on December 12th. You know, when you think about it, you look at Toronto this season. High hopes in Toronto. And this season has almost mirrored the Calgary Flames. They've suffered big-time hot and cold streaks. They've suffered more injuries than the Flames have. But they both have had their moments this year where they couldn't get things going. And they've also had their moments where they couldn't do anything wrong. Kind of a similar season with these two teams. Then on Saturday afternoon, we've talked about a whole bunch tonight on the show. Calgary goes into Ottawa for a Saturday afternoon battle of the Tkachuk Brothers. How long are we going to keep saying that? We talked about that earlier in the interview, and we probably wouldn't be saying it if it was another Western Conference team, but since we play Ottawa twice a year, that's why. One previous meeting, November 30th in Calgary, the Flames won that game 3-1. Well, the Calgary Flames will be heading off on a 9-day break. That'll begin Saturday afternoon after the game. Let's pray we come back much better than we did last year. Thank you for listening to Flames Unfiltered. Check us out on the Hockey Podcast Network. Also check us out at flamesunfiltered.com. Check out Inside Edge Hockey News for all your hockey news. We hope you enjoy the break. Shows still next week while we're on break. Thank you, Calgary Flames fans. Talk to you soon. Get connected. Flames Unfiltered can be found on Twitter at Flame Unfiltered. And also make sure you check out our Facebook page at Flames Unfiltered. Check out host Brad Brood on Twitter at Brad Brood. And if you like what you hear, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. You can find Flames Unfiltered on all the major podcast players. Consider subscribing to the Inside Edge Hockey News on Patreon. That'll get you exclusive content and much more. Thanks again and enjoy the hockey. Thanks for tuning in to Flames Unfiltered. Check back for more action-packed Calgary Flames talk.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network on Twitter at HockeyPodNet. New episodes every Monday and Thursday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.
This has been a production of Inside Edge Hockey News Radio, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. This production is copyrighted and distributed by the Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.